Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and today we're going to do a quick review of the Formula One movie. Brad
Yeah.
Pitt's all access fucking, pardon, Formula One movie.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's Top Gun Maverick, as a lot of people are calling it, because it was made by a lot of the same people. And my God, just like Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick, Brad Pitt doesn't age, but this time he's flying closer to the ground. Yeah, Paul, Formula One, the movie. Technically F1, the movie. It's not even called Formula One, the movie. F1, the movie. We both got to see it
Hmm.
separately, I should add. We're both Formula One fans. I go long and deep when it comes to motorsport.
Hmm.
Warning everybody, there's going to be no car nerdiness from me here that's saying they didn't get this right, or it wouldn't really
Yeah,
happen like that, or that's not. I watched this purely as a movie. Obviously, I can speak from the point of view of did it scratch my itch, or did it represent a sport in a certain way, and all that kind of stuff. But Paul, I don't think you or I are going to pull this thing apart for inaccuracies, are we?
no, I don't. I don't think so. I think like it would be very easy, and I think that there's not many racing type movies that are able to kind of really represent the sport that they're trying to represent very well. Kind
Yeah.
of thing. I think there's very few in the racing kind of movie catalog that actually do like a good enough job that everybody's kind of being like, yeah, I can excuse this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But enough of them are like, no, okay. To not bury the lead, what did you think of the movie? Very short kind of thing.
Okay, I'll give you it was definitely an F1 sponsored movie, but not an annoying kind of here's all our product placement. Formula One is very product placementy with all its advertising. There was plenty, but no more than you'd see in a James Bond film in a comparison. So I was glad that they skipped that hurdle. My problem is I think it's an interesting spectacle that told a fine little story, but it was a wasted opportunity. So as far as a movie goes, would I say that this is a 2.5 hour movie that I'm like, yay, go and see it? No. I'd say this is good fun. You can watch it, but it's a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah. I would very much mirror what you said. I would say that it's a very entertaining movie in the sense of like popcorn movie kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's not breaking any barriers, which is specifically probably a bad point in the sense of the amount of access that they had
Yeah.
to the actual sport kind of thing. But overall, yeah, it's a fun movie. Like I would say maybe go to the cinema to watch it, but if you miss it, you'll catch it on streaming. You're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's not a cinema movie like that. I would definitely be like, you got to get out there. Like I would
And
definitely say
I gotta
maybe,
ask you about that, Paul. Like one of the reasons I went to, I specifically went to IMAX is because I'm like,
yeah.
this is going to be, there's no way I'm gonna miss seeing this in IMAX. Yet when I was watching it, other than a few, yes, there was some new camera work, similar to Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick's gonna
Hmm.
have to come up a lot, I'd say, in this review. Like what being brought into the cockpit of the airplanes in Top Gun Maverick was impressive.
Hmm.
And some of what they did in F1 the movie was impressive. But it's not something that I think I would have missed out on had I watched it on a slightly smaller screen or a regular screen rather than a premium. Or even, and people are going to laugh at me when I say that and they watch the movie and go, oh no, man. Don't get me wrong. It's a popcorn movie. It doesn't take you on a thrill ride non-stop, though, Paul. This is not Armageddon we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah, like yeah, because I went to Lux. I went to like a luxury kind of thing where we got those recliner chairs. No added kind of like standard sound system, standard screen kind of thing, and you went to the IMAX, and I was just like, I enjoyed the experience I had,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I wasn't sitting there going like, God, I wish I had seen this in IMAX or anything
Yeah.
like that. So I will agree there that like if you are going to go see it in the cinema, you're fine to cheap out on the screen, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. I don't like. I'm sure there's going to be one or two people who are just like, yeah, but the shot at this time, kind of thing. And I'm happy that you're able to find your shots in this movie that you really go, you need the best
And
screen and stuff. Good for
And
you.
there are some incredible ones, Paul, but I think
Hmm.
part of the problem is that since we're used to watching racing, yes, there were a few unique shots, but the idea of being on board in a Formula One car is
Yeah.
not actually that new to us because Formula One has been advancing camera technology for themselves for like coverage of their own sport for years and years. Don't get me wrong, what Joseph Kosinski did is really, really impressive. But I think if you've never had anything to do with the sport, go see this thing in IMAX. It'll blow your mind. Absolutely. Having said that, you should check out some Formula One and watch even just the onboard footage. That'll also blow your mind in the same way. So yeah, no, visually, I'm not going to pick on this movie, though, Paul. I think it
No.
was well shot. It was beautiful. It was impressive. I want to skip straight past all that. I don't want to skip past the sporting stuff and go straight to plot, characters, and just
Yeah.
overall execution.
Yeah, let's go for it. Plot.
I have a huge, huge issue that they could have come up with a better story. We're at a point now where, with unlimited access to Formula One, and you have movies like Rush and Ford v Ferrari that show that if you take it seriously, you can make a good movie that happens to be about motorsport, not a good motorsport movie. They didn't do that. This is your run of the mill plot with a script that I gotta say at times is like laughably hokey. Some of the lines I would like to credit the actors for saying with a straight face.
Yeah, I would say so. With the plot, I would say that it's the plot that we got was very felt very streamlined, even for a 2.5 hour movie. It
Yeah.
definitely felt like there's more. There's definitely more of a story that they did not. There's characters in this that say things as if they've said something before that that has like
Yes.
so like this plot very much like there's a female racer that doesn't get any mention in the movie that there was shots of like there was
Right.
so like there's a subplot there of like a female driver in Formula One that like never made
That
it to
wasn't in the
screen.
movie that I saw.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it
Yeah.
never made it to screen. It was all cut, but it feels like there's a lot of that. There feels like there's several
Yeah.
subplots that are not being told properly, kind of
Yes,
thing.
very much so. Very
Because
much so.
we had Kerry Condon who plays Case McKenna, who's the technical director of of AXA GP or
Apex GP.
Apex,
Yeah.
yeah, Apex GP. There definitely feels like there's few subplots there that they kind of like overlaced, like just covered and was just like, yeah, we're done. Female technical racer or technical director in a like like in a
Yeah.
sport that's mostly like male, and it's just like, okay, so we're glossing over that. Okay, cool. Joshua Pierce, the secondary character, the secondary racer in the team. There's a lot missing for his that it definitely feels like for his plot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, Paul, what they kept didn't work out in all cases then, because obviously I hear you with and let's just take a brief moment in a second to type female characters and how they're treated in the movie, because that's going to be mentioned by people. And now that you brought up there was a subplot removed, that's no surprise to me. But you have people like there's a marketing director lady who gets like two lines the whole
the
thing, but
pure,
seems like
yeah,
she should have been a significant character in some way. They played it like, and then she's disappeared. Um, the mechanic, there's a female mechanic who's highlighted, who by the end of it all, you're like, why? Other than to maybe give a secondary love interest for the other driver in the team, feels weird.
yep,
The undermining of the main character by making her a love interest. I know people are like, well, what's wrong with that? No, like they made so much of trying to make a character and then just did the whole, oh, but it's Brad Pitt, so obviously they're both going to fall in love. And we won't spoil anything after that point. I think that's telegraphed
mm,
in the trailers, so no spoilers here, folks. But Paul, what were they doing with then the other characters that seemed like they were there as a joke? Damson Idris, the the younger driver's mother, had like four personalities thrust upon her at different. Anytime she was
yeah,
on screen, it's like this one we wrote yesterday, this one we wrote today, and this is the one we wrote for tomorrow. I think the actor herself did okay under those circumstances, but even the mainline cast. Let's just take the big three.
hmm,
Well, big four: Bardem, Kerry Condon, Brad Pitt, and Damson Idris. They were all asked to make some really hokey stuff sell.
mm.
And to be fair to them, they held, like, the movie isn't bad. But it's so obvious that on the list of priorities, plot and script were the last two.
Yeah, no, as I said, it definitely feels like there was a bigger movie there, and they essentially were just they found essentially one of the least interesting plots that they had, and that's what they showed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like and to the detriment of most of the characters. Like the only character that definitely gets saved in this is obviously Brad Pitt's Sonny Hayes, but
Yeah.
but everybody to the detriment of all the other characters. And I'm not saying like that that it's kind of like overshadowed and stuff like that. There was just interesting plots there that they could have gone into a little bit more at the sacrifice of essentially a already done trope of a character, you know, past his
Yeah.
prime, lost his things, but has a history in love with the sport. You know, there's already been things there done in the past, kind of thing. We could have definitely had a really good movie of like. There was a Creed film to this, which is like the old boxer trying
Yeah.
to help the
Yeah.
new boxer kind of thing, being Brad Pitt's character with Damon's Idris's
Damson
character.
Idris. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had the person who had to prove themselves in a position. Like there's so many good subplots that could have been done here, and they just ignored or like thought, nah. Like the best way, the only true line story that we have is essentially Sonny Hayes, and it's just like, oh yeah, but you miss so much, you know.
And that's what bothers me, Paul, because when you just consider the two things that we've talked about, and we should move on to other things,
Mm,
but we talked about the fact that they had unbelievable access and they knew they had a visual spectacle. You know, a director that can do a visual spectacle, a cinematographer that can do a visual spectacle. They knew what they had. You know,
mm-hmm.
Formula One and Lewis Hamilton and all the other producers, including Brad Pitt, knew what they had to work with.
Yeah.
So all they had to do was make a simple character driven script that uses all that excitement around it.
Mm,
But it's like they did the reverse. They're like, we have this amazing spectacle that we can use, and we know how we're going to shoot it, and we're going to do some amazing new camera things, and blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to come up with a wafer thin plot that we're going to try and make complex in some way to match the vigor of the sport we're in. And then we're going to give, there's subtleties to tire stuff in Formula One that they captured quite well very quickly in this movie. And I'm like, well done. But why would a regular audience,
yeah.
it's gonna bump by some of them. Why did you do that? And then simultaneously pander to people who knew what was going on by having, Martin Brundle or somebody doing a voiceover explaining exactly what you're seeing. It it was not well enough written. I think the one thing that would have solved this movie, and I know they had pandemic problems and all sorts of other stuff, they did not write a good enough script. And it shows. Because everything else, no matter what direction it is, I can forgive it. But even for a popcorn movie,
Mm-hmm.
when you're watching one that was well written and put together to just entertain you and be just popcorn, or one like this where I think they thought they were doing more and the popcorn was going to flow because this is an exciting sport. It'll be a popcorn movie with a soul. No, it wasn't a popcorn movie with a soul. It was a mess with Formula One wrapped around it.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I slightly disagree with this level of the writing for the writing part. I definitely think that the editing and the final product is where they completely went off the wall.
Fair enough.
They probably might have like for me it felt like there was a strong script there. They just butchered it at the like in the editing table kind of thing, and they
Okay.
chose the worst. They definitely chose worst, like terrible shots and terrible like deliveries of certain lines instead of possibly just going that doesn't need to be there because the story that we're trying to tell doesn't need that, kind of
Mm,
thing. Like we don't. There's certain aspects of like a racing movie that I really enjoy is that it shows the passion that the people have for the sport. Like
hmm.
every racing movie, no matter how terrible it is, definitely gets through the emotion and passion of the people that do it, kind of thing. And this one does as well, but there's elements of that are definitely like, why do you have that line in there? Because it's delivered so awfully that it's just like
Yeah.
you could definitely see someone who's passionate about this sport not wanted, kind of thing. The
Yeah.
scene with Brad Pitt in the bed and what is this? Uh,
Is it where
Have
he's
you ever?
reliving his accident?
No, the part where
Oh,
he's in the where he's
spoiler
saying you're off
warning.
the team and stuff,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
and it's just like the lines. Some of the lines that were delivered in that room were just like you could have just not had that. You could have just had
Yeah.
not had that whole thing because it was such an awkward dialogue between the two characters that I was just like, whoa, okay,
Yeah.
there's a better way to show this kind of thing. But
Well,
yeah,
Paul,
it's
I have to say I'm glad that we feel slightly different about that because I think it's always good. And this is our most unstructured review of a movie ever, folks. And
mm,
I think that's coming across, and that's good because I'm not at no point am I saying this is a terrible film, and I don't think you're saying that either, Paul. I think I'm maybe saying they don't know what they wanted to make, so they didn't really make the right anything. But I'm mostly saying it should have been a great film that involved motorsport, considering the access they had, and they went the other way around. They tried to make a motorsport movie. If you watch something like Rush or Ford v Ferrari, you can see a director's vision and a writer's mind being applied to say we're going to take you on a character-filled journey that happens to live in this world.
mhm.
The dead subplots and the half plots and the quarter used characters and the shifting in tone from a character from one scene to the next tells me that they didn't concentrate on that as their number one thing. So I would love them to have taken the opening scene
Mhm.
and watched it before making the rest of the movie. Because the opening scene for me, it happens, and this isn't spoiling anything big, people. You're introduced to Brad Pitt in a different racing series,
Mhm.
and they captured in a few very brief shots what it's like to be in a race car. And that's great for race car people and for non-race car people because it is exciting and violent and all sorts of good stuff. But they'd actually spent their time going, you're going to care about the person that's inside the big metal box. For the rest of the movie, it was a little bit back and forth. And because that's, I think maybe that's where I'm picking the script most of all, Paul, because some of it was so cheesy in places, it undermined whether or not I was supposed to just enjoy my popcorn and turn off my brain, or whether or not I was supposed to care about what happened to everybody in this movie,
Yeah.
which is a real shame.
Yeah, I think we just I think we both agree on the same thing. The same. I just think
Probably just different
where,
reasons.
yeah, just the
Yeah.
where in the production that those issues arise, kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's a yeah. For me, I would say so. Final kind of thoughts. I would say yeah, it's an entertaining film. It's not the best pedigree of a racing movie that you could like. It's not the best example of a racing movie that's out there, and it's such a missed opportunity with the amount of access that they had with the
Hmm.
plot that they storied. So you gotta, if you're going to watch this film, you gotta realize that like yeah, it's maybe lower expectations a little bit. Like if I was to give it
Yeah.
like a five, you know. Out of five, I'd say that it's probably hovering around like a 2.5, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I had put it as a 6 out of 10. So yeah, it's a six and a half out of 10. Whereas, your Ford v Ferraris and Rush are up in the eights and nines, etc.
Yeah.
But then you get things like Gran Turismo that we covered on this channel before, which at a second watch recently, kind of got worse even.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and Orlando Bloom really was definitely, he was partaking in for some pharmaceuticals. Yeah, so I judge this not as a racing movie though, just if I judge it against everything else. And the thing that it most wants to be judged against, Top Gun Maverick.
Mm,
It ain't no Top Gun Maverick. Because if you did compare it to it drags on too long. It doesn't know what it wants to do with half of its characters that it kind of introduced you to and then does nothing with. At least Top Gun Maverick was like, hey, this is our circle. These people are here to be ignored or just to be support for whatever that is. We're not going to try and give them their own meaningful subplot. What we're at here is Tom Cruise is coming back. There's some history with Goose's kid, and we have a mission that we're going to go and do.
yeah.
And let's face it, Paul, we all left Maverick going, that's some brilliant popcorn cinema. That was a great movie.
Yeah.
That is not how you feel when you leave F1. You feel like, oh, God, it could have been a racing movie. It could have been a popcorn movie. It could have been a lot of different movies. I don't think it knew what it wanted to be, never mind what it needed to be. And that's such a shame because Top Gun Maverick, I still rate. I've watched it a few times now. I still think it did. People say it saved cinema. I think it was the film that we needed when it came out, but I actually still rated it quite highly. It ain't getting no 6 out of 10. Let me put it that way.
Mm, agreed.
What about you? If you like for like, which one of you? How would you rate
I
it against its Top Gun Maverick
it
competition?
doesn't compare. It doesn't.
Yeah,
Like, it just as I said, it felt, as we said before, when they did this movie, when they did Formula One or F1, it felt like they had an idea, and then at the end of the production, that idea had completely disappeared.
yeah,
With Maverick, it felt like they had an idea, and that's what they ended up with at the end of the production kind of thing.
yeah,
And it just felt like vision was kept on the level with Maverick, and it felt like the vision of this may have like gotten diluted and stuff like that. And I definitely think that there might have been there's elements in there that I would definitely like to kind of maybe talk to you a little bit more, maybe at a later date. But I think that the access may have overwhelmed the production a little bit. Going, we're the first people to do this. We need to show as much as we possibly can and stuff like that. And I think that
yeah.
I think maybe a little bit less access might have actually been better for the production.
True.
But that's just on me.
Yeah, and look, to everybody who made the film, great job. And Access be damned, they were under a lot of pressure to get shots in public at a real live event and stuff. That's not easy.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is, again, same thing as you. The story and script and everything about that needed to be thought through beforehand and remembered all the way through. I think that would cover both our angles in this. All the way to the edit, they needed to remember what they were trying to achieve. But I would like to say, fair play to everybody
Yeah.
involved. Brad Pitt's still gorgeous and charming. Just in case anybody's wondering, yes, Brad Pitt is still Brad Pitt. Whatever deal he's done, keep eating the or drinking the goat blood or whatever it is. He's, he's immortal now.
That is true. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know down in the comments what you think of the F1 movie. If you are like a racing fan or not a racing fan and you watch the movie, let us know your opinions about it, because that'll be a really interesting kind of side by side. As me and
Yeah,
Patrick are fans of F1, done it, so it'll be nice to see someone else who maybe not as
not as close to it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So and don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. But otherwise, I've been Paul,
I've been Patrick.
and we've been here at South. See
See
you
you next
guys.
time.